morning. I'm sure most of you will be aware that a big grey box has appeared on Alexandra Dock, and that's Siemens. We're building and making wind turbine blades, and we also have a pre-assembly site that brings in all of the other parts, the towers, the nacelles, puts them together, and then ships them offshore. So Rebecca, my colleague, is in the audience, and we've had a tough job. We've had to recruit rather quickly, close to 1,000 people, and we have around about 120 brand new leaders of that business, all of them from different backgrounds with different levels of competencies and experience, all very new. Not one single one of them has ever worked in a blade factory before as well, so we have significant challenges. We have teething problems, the same as any other startup business would have, and we have a lot of people who feel the need and want to prove themselves and progress and really show what they're made of. And Siemens is a great company. We have a lot of tools and techniques to help us with leading and explaining to managers what they should be doing. So the top of the iceberg stuff it's all there. There's even a checklist that you can do, and you can test yourself, and if you tick all 64, and I know it's 64 because I'm sad and I've counted, but if you tick all 64 of those boxes, then from that perspective you're doing a good job. And I think a lady came in to talk to the Breakfast Club one morning, and her name was Amina Walker, and it really kind of lit a light bulb in my head, in that she told a story about the fact that she used to work for a travel agent, and it was one of those shops where in the morning all the staff stood outside and you all waited for your manager to come along with a bunch of keys and let you in. And she said some days we were incredibly productive. We smashed our targets and everyone was on a high and it was fantastic, and then other days it was awful. Everyone's head was down, we didn't meet targets, we failed. And she said, do you know what the difference was? The manager. She said we would all be stood there in the morning watching that manager get off the bus at the end of the street and walk towards us, and we'd all be looking to see, is her head up? Has she got a spring in her step? Or actually, is she in a bad mood, and is she smoking a cigarette, and is she quite, are we not going to have a good day? And that was the difference between having a great day and having a really bad day. And for me, Siemens, we measure people on the what, 50%, and the how they do the job. And that for me is all the stuff that is under the top of the iceberg. And I'm a massive believer in that you can't lead people if you're not capable of leading yourself. And the reason that we ran the program with Martin was we wanted to really help people in terms of being able to come into work and be consistent, not go into shadow self, not understanding what triggers you, and being able to have some coping techniques and some things in your toolkit that can actually help you deal with things a little bit differently and really understand physically and mentally the signals of when you are starting to become triggered, and then having that mindset of next time this happens, I'm going to do this differently. This is how I'm going to react. So we want people to have some really healthy coping mechanisms, and also be mindful of not just themselves, but also the triggers of some of their colleagues as well, and mindful of their own body languages and that type of thing, and really have a depth of understanding of their own behaviour. So we hands up, any of you who've done a job that you hated. Doesn't have to be the job you're doing now. Don't worry if you sat with your boss, it can be one that you've done before. But any of you who've done that, who've worked in a job that you hated, I've done it. I did waitressing when I was doing my O-levels. I'm giving my age away a wee bit. And it was at the Ferens Art Gallery, and I hated it. I didn't like the difficult customers. I did a lot of eye rolling. I didn't like being on my feet. And I was actually quite miserable, and all I used to do was eat cakes and get fat. I was a bit surly to some of the customers. I didn't get many tips, and I was really inefficient, and actually I would ring in sick at the drop of a hat. But I'm sure you've all been there, and you know, if you are in the wrong job, and if you're not aligned to your own motivators, then you will behave completely differently to a sense of when you are. So for us, we're already seeing, we rolled it out to our 120 people leaders, and we are getting a lot of people coming forward, engineers as an example, who are hearing about it, and they're saying, please, can we? So we're obviously expanding that and working further with them to understand kind of underneath that iceberg. We obviously, there's a risk. There is a risk when you're asking people to really understand themselves and start thinking about what motivates them, what gives them a sense of purpose. There is a risk that they'll wake up and smell the coffee and go, actually, do you know what? I want to be a rock star. I don't want to work in accounts anymore. There is a risk of that, and we always knew that. But there's also a massive opportunity to realign people to either other roles. It doesn't have to be another role, but maybe Bob in accounts is gazing out the window on a sunny day because he's quite resentful of the fact that he's working 5 days a week because he wants to be with his mates on the golf course 2 days a week. But it opens the door to having those types of conversations and really understanding, what is going to make someone happy, and understanding actually what are those, of those 9, what are the ones that are key to those individuals. And also being mindful of the fact that, we are a new startup. We are all forming and storming, and you can spend a lot of time and energy building up amazing relationships with people, only then to have a bad day and say a few harsh words, and that respect is pretty much gone, and it takes quite a long time to build back the trust once that's happened. So this is, for us, it's not about changing people, it's about realizing potential and helping people be happy. Because let's face it, I don't think any of us wants to work with grumpy Tony who doesn't really want to be at work. And sorry for all the Tonys out there who might be looking out the window, but I hope that was helpful. But to share our experience, and thank you for listening.